If you're West African and somehow, some way you clicked on this video or you found my channel, help me understand something because you know better than me, right? I've always subscribed to the idea that genetics in mixed martial arts matter. It's not the most important thing. You know, technique is always the number one best attribute to have. You know, technique, fight IQ, right? But genetics is a big second, in my opinion. Genetics matter a lot. And I believe that West Africa, this region right here, produces people that have very strong genetics. I don't know what it is. Is it the diet? Is it all that foo-foo that you guys are eating that makes you, 5% body fat, shredded, and very lean, and good at combat sports? Because this region of the world does not produce a lot of MMA fighters compared to other regions of the world, right? Like Brazil, a lot of fighters come out of Brazil. A lot of fighters in America, in Eastern Europe, in the Caucasus, in Australia, right? But West Africa, I guess the point that I'm trying to make is the fighters that do come out of West Africa punch well above their weight. And I think you can agree with me on that. Usman, Ngannou, Adesanya, 3 African champions that descended from this part of the world, Nigeria and Cameroon. I know Nigeria is a big country with like 200 million people, but mixed martial arts isn't big over there. I could be wrong, but boxing, combat sports, it's not really big in Africa. At least I don't think it is. And yet, there was 3 UFC champions that came from there. And I believe that is because those guys had very strong, dare I say, superior genetics. I know that word superior can bring in some negative connotations. It can bring in some eugenics talking points. Okay, this doesn't come from a place of malice. It doesn't come from a place of, disdain or whatever. It comes from a place of curiosity. It comes from a place of admiration, if anything. And I bring West Africa up because it's really only West Africa, right? I mean, we're not talking about East Africa. We don't see fighters from these countries, from Somalia. Maybe we'll see some Somali fighters one day. I don't know how their fighting style is going to look like. Maybe they'll do some, accidental headbutts with their giant foreheads. But, we got Josias Musasa from the Congo, but he sucks. So Central Africa doesn't count. They're not all that good. And then the Southern African countries, they don't count either. They suck. Remember Blood Diamond? I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about the actual dude named Blood Diamond. Fucking sucks. I think he was from Zimbabwe? Can't remember. And then South Africa, we got some white fighters. DDP, he's all right. DDP's good. He's a champion. But it's really West Africa. And not all West Africans are good at MMA, Abdul Al-Hassan, whatever his name is, he didn't make it. But he had good genetics. He didn't make it because he was 5'9" fighting at middleweight. He should have been fighting at welterweight, if anything, right? Tafon Nchukwi, I think he was from Cameroon. He didn't make it, but that dude was actually quite good. It was just unfortunate for his UFC debut that he fought Azamat Murzakanov and Carlos Ulberg. And if you rewatch that Murzakanov fight, it wasn't easy for Azamat. Azamat had a tough time, and he landed a Hail Mary flying knee at the end, which destroyed Tafon Nchukwi. Okay, so it's not all West Africans, but based on the amount of West Africans that made it, it's like shit. Kamaru Usman, it's like, okay, you could argue that the wrestling took him to that championship position, but is he? Francis? How the hell did a kickboxer become a UFC middleweight champion and stay there for a very long time and defend that belt multiple times? Because the consensus was always that kickboxers can't be champions. But he made it work. And Francis Ngannou, was an even bigger story. He was a fucking refugee that went to France very late to MMA, very late. And yet he became the heavyweight champion of the world, right? So the point that I'm trying to make is that genetics does take you far. It's not always about having technique, because Francis couldn't defend takedowns. And, he learned his lesson in the first Stipe Miocic fight. Stipe Miocic has worse genetics than Francis, but because of Stipe's technique, it won him that fight. But in the second one, we all saw what happened. You just teach the guy to learn how to sprawl and do some double underhooks, and all of a sudden, that technique doesn't work for shit anymore. Right? And I bring this up because this Saturday, my points will prove me right yet again. Because we have another West African fighter coming in who looks like an absolute tank. I saw this picture, and I saw this picture a few months ago, but I'm looking at it and it just proves me right. This is a difference between genetics right here. You have the sub-Saharan genetics of West Africa from Cameroon against this Northwest European, Amerimut, beer-drinking, Mongoloid type of inferior genetics here. Look at the midsection. A lot more body fat on this creature, whereas Ateba, very visible abs. You just know if he takes a body shot, he's not going to feel it. If you hit Ateba Gautier, try to go for a liver shot or whatever, that shit's going to be rock solid. You're not going to body shot KO this guy. Maybe a knee. You'd have to knee him really good and maybe he'll feel it, but not with your actual fist. Look at the vascular veins too, the broad shoulders. This is superior genetics right here. Primed for combat sports and for athleticism, low body fat, fast twitch muscle. He is going to knock out and destroy Andrei Pulyaev in the first round. And I did say, Pulyaev is Russian. Russians are usually some of the more stronger version of whites in the world. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter in this. Like, I'm looking at Ateba's record, and dare I say, I think Ateba Gautier, even though we haven't seen him in deep waters yet, even though we haven't seen him up against a good, competent grappler, there's not really that many grapplers at middleweight besides Chimaev and Fluffy. And by the time Gautier really climbs up the rankings and possibly gets a title shot one day, because he's still young, he's 23 years old, Chimaev's not going to be at middleweight anymore. He'll be at 205. Who knows what's going to happen to Fluffy? Keep Ateba Gautier away from Fluffy Hernandez at the moment. Because I think Ateba Gautier probably will be a champion one day, based on his genetics. This video is going to age very well for me. Oh my God. Can you imagine if this Saturday, Andrei Pulyaev just comes in, shoots a double leg, and submits Ateba Gautier in the first round? I hope that doesn't happen. But, I'm trying to prove a point. And if you're West African, you can help me out a little bit. Because I think you understand where I'm trying to go with this. I think you understand where I'm coming from, at least. Some ethnic groups, their genetics just seem to be really, really good compared to others, right? Can you say that Japanese genetics is on the same level as West African genetics when it comes to combat sports? Can you really look at me in the straight face and tell that? I know it's controversial. I know it's eugenics. I know it's all these bad things. We like to pretend to live in this world where everybody is all equal and we're all have the same capabilities and shit and whatnot. But come on, you can't look at me in a straight face and tell me that. You simply can't. Because this region of the world, Francis Ngannou, Izzy, I remember watching Izzy versus Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa was built like a fucking tank. Giant muscles. I was thinking to myself, and this is back then where I was a little more naive about MMA. I was thinking to myself, man, this Izzy guy, he looks so skinny. He doesn't have as big muscles as this Paulo Costa guy. he destroys Paulo Costa, picks him apart and annihilates him with the leg kicks, knocks him out brutally, and pumps his Nigerian seed in that fat Brazilian bunda to finish it off. And then, and there, I saw that, I was like, okay, I will stop doubting guys like Adesanya. Kamaru Usman was on a big giant title run until he comes across Leon Edwards, who head kicks him. Now, Leon Edwards is from the UK, but he's got a Jamaican background. Jamaica is in the Caribbean, but if you know your history, Jamaica, the people of Jamaica came from the transatlantic slave trade, which was mostly West Africa. So Leon Edwards, in order to beat Kamaru Usman, it took another West African guy to beat him. Because you look at Leon Edwards' physique, and it's probably the best physique in the entire sport right now. You know, his fight IQ isn't the best. Sure, you know, a grappler like Sean Brady beats him. A giant stick bug favela Brazilian and CP beats him. Whatever, right? Genetics takes you far, but it can only take you so far. It took him to beat Usman. I don't know, man. Like, okay, I do know. I know that West Africans, whether it's the fufu, whether it's the climate, whether it's the culture, or whether it's just the alleles and the genes in the body that produces these great, powerful, physical specimens, I think in the next few decades, as Africa develops more and more people from those regions get into MMA, we're going to see a lot of these guys come in and just clean house. And God have mercy on the rest of the world if they know how to do wrestling. Like with Usman, his parents were immigrants and he came to America. So he wrestled because of the American wrestling culture. Adesanya, same thing. His parents went to New Zealand. Francis is just Francis, you know. That was that. But if you have more of these guys coming in, it's a wrap. You can say goodbye to Brazilians. You can say goodbye to Europeans. You can say goodbye to them all because they're going to get destroyed by these dudes when they enter the octagon. The only guys that can pose a threat to them are Muslim caucus guys that have been training since toddlers how to shoot double legs. That's the only guys that are going to beat him. I do believe, and I will die on this hill, that if Usman had more time to prepare for the Chimaev fight and it was a 5-rounder, or not even if it was a 5-rounder, it could have stayed 3 rounds, but if Usman had a lot more time to prepare, he would have beaten Khamzat Chimaev that night. He would have. And there's nothing that anybody can say that would convince me otherwise. So even a guy like Chimaev had a tough time fighting Usman. That just goes to show, man. The West Africans are strong. If you're West African, if you've watched this far, type the number 7 so I know you made it this far, because you can explain more to me. I really don't know. I'm obviously not West African. Do I look Ghanaian to you? Do I look Ghanaian to you? Huh? No, I'm not Ghanaian. Okay, I'm American. So those are just some of my thoughts on things. I do think Ateba will probably be champion one day, just based on his genetics. I know that's a hot take. I know it's way too early to call that. And you can probably save this video to your Aged Like Milk playlist. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's all I got for this video, though. Like, subscribe. Subscribe to my channel, motherfuckers. I need all the subscribers I can get. UFC 324 is 2 nights from now. I don't know if I'll be able to stream it. There's a big ice storm that's happening in my area, and it's going to happen Saturday. So I might be out of power. That shit sucks. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens. Peace out.